they're useless because they all get rejected.
This is taking what we, so I didn't want to mention tools today, but what you said about one spec, this is actually taking that to an entirely different level. This is evolving that manual, so automatically assisted, manumatic, whatever you want to term it, crawling kind of capability to where it needs to be as the web stuff evolves.
Now, how do you recognize and deal with those nonsense that you mentioned several times?
So you don't really need to, right?
Okay.
The whole idea is that I can perform a set of actions that cause some kind of request, and before that request is made, I can insert my attack into whatever parameter I want to attack, right? So I can have a proxy sitting between my replay guy and saying, going through, oh, this request is made, oh, that's the one I want to attack. Okay, I'm going to inject it before it's sent, so I know the nonsense is still good.
So the idea is we don't care.
Right.
Okay, but how do you, if you're going, I'm assuming that you're going to need to make more than one request for the same parameter.
Replay it every time.
But you said that it's a unique nonce, so replay doesn't really work.
Replay the whole path to create a new nonce, because if a user can do it, right, you can go through and use the app multiple times.
Okay.
I just need to make sure my web app is going to do the same thing a user would be doing to cause a new nonce to be generated, so I can attack that.
And so then what exactly are you recording?
Using the application, right? So recording
use case testing is in the QA world.
Recording your interactions with JavaScript, recording your interactions with Flash, recording your interactions with Silverlight.
Yeah, it's
UI. Right? It's kind of there's multiple levels to it, but what you're specifically referring to is UI automation, remembering what you did in UI.
Right. So one of the limits of refining web app scanners is not being able to do REST or SOAP-based applications or handling asynchronous events well. Have you looked at this model methodology towards?
So one of the things you're talking about is like set timeout, right? You know, how do I model the a stock ticker that's changing constantly and doing asynchronous stuff? Maybe on the third request it's vulnerable and not on the first two, or something crazy like that. So we've kind of looked at that and we didn't add that to our models just because we didn't want to go into crazy complexity. But you can model that sort of stuff in a graph, and if the application knows that they specifically spend time saying that this is important, right? Or that maybe you don't do that in every single case, right? But you're in the credit cards area, you want to check everything, right? So you know that there's this kind of temporal event that's occurring, and you need to wait for 10 seconds. And if it's important enough, you have the scanner wait for 10 seconds. I mean, if that's the only way to execute it, that's the only way to execute it.
What is once we're using the phrase temporal event? Any other questions? This is a great discussion, by the way. This is the whole reason we're here.
Yeah.
We want to generate these kinds of discussions. We want to put together, a consensus on where we want to drive. This is our idea for driving this forward. We're going to obviously, as a company, as a figure, try to drive our tools this way, in this direction. It'd be great to get all your feedback and discussion so that we know that we start building stuff that you guys are actually going to find useful. Yes?
Speaking of temporal events, how do you handle race conditions where two things are going on at the same time?
Yeah, so luckily with web applications, right, you don't really have too much of there's JavaScript is theoretically single-threaded until Google hears, since they died, right, until we get threads into HTML5, you're going to have single-threaded JavaScript. And HTML is requests and responses are pretty single-threaded. So, if we're talking about desktop applications, that's a whole another game, right? But luckily, we don't necessarily have to deal with that. Yeah, I mean it's definitely an edge case of we're not going to try to take on everything immediately.
This is definitely going to take some time.
You had a
go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment that you had brought up static analysis. Static analysis is a problem with context unless you have the data behind it. I guess how do you solve that problem? You can't necessarily use static analysis, but yet your code has, I don't think, anything.
Yeah, it's not let's generate everything with static analysis. It's just let's use what we can that we know is going to be good, right? Because we don't want to go back down the path of generating a trillion different ways to go from this one page, right? What we want to do is, based on the actions you did, can we look for similar things and do stuff like that? I mean, just help you out a little bit, right? Because there's stuff that we can do.
It's going to be an iterative approach, quite frankly. iteration 1 through a testing cycle is what you demonstrated, what you taught the scanner or the tool to do. There we branch. Then we look for similar things. This is just a concept we're kind of going against the wall, see what sticks. That is much further in the future than we are right now. I want to make sure that, first off, the concepts are agreeable and people don't, think that we're missing anything. And I think all this is based on evolution. It's not that app scanners suck, right? It's that they're going to suck unless we do something about it. They're going to get really bad as applications start to get more and more and more complex. And the easy answer is we'll just do them manually, but I think we all realize that that's not really possible. So we're going to try to combine some functional intelligence with a scanner, and I think that's the only way forward.
Yeah, so what are the things that we're doing? I mean, we've kind of already talked about that, but, formally, we're looking into defining, we want to define the stuff. I mean, that's what this presentation was all about, was kind of defining the stuff, getting people to think about it. Whether you like our names or not, we're trying to get, the point, I hope, is getting across, right? And, we're trying to incorporate this stuff, obviously from a, we're working toward this stuff, but this isn't a product pitch. This is more about, how do we start thinking about this in a formal way so that we can do things like automation of these complicated applications.
Cool. Hey, and if you want to contribute, you have ideas, thoughts, you want to continue discussion, throw me a card, throw me an email. Find us on Twitter, read our blogs, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, we do want to generate some discussions. More feedback equals better way forward for you guys. Thanks.